Welcome to Fright.
Fright Night wasn't just another 80s vampire flick, it was a gothic resurrection of the horror genre disguised as a teen movie. Behind its neon glow lay chaos, blood, and brilliance. Cast members risked injury, effects crews nearly lost control of their creations, and the studio almost buried it alive. Here are 20 weird facts about Fright Night you didn't know. The script was born out of rejection. Writer-director Tom Holland didn't plan to make a vampire film, he wanted to direct a thriller. But after his script for another project was rejected, he turned frustration into horror gold. He wrote Fright Night in just 3 weeks, channeling his anger into the story of a boy no one believes. Holland later said he imagined himself as Charlie Brewster, ignored, dismissed, yet seeing something no one else could. The studio didn't expect much. They thought it was a throwaway genre piece. Yet Columbia executives were so surprised by its emotional tone that they greenlit it faster than any of Holland's previous works. What began as revenge against Hollywood rejection became a cult legend that resurrected the vampire myth for a new generation. Chris Sarandon hated the original vampire design. When Chris Sarandon first read the script, he loved the character but hated the design concepts. Early sketches made Jerry Dandridge look like a cheap Nosferatu clone. Sarandon argued that real evil should be seductive, not grotesque. He suggested subtle elegance, refined menace, and quiet sensuality. His approach changed everything. The makeup team redesigned the look, giving Jerry a European smoothness paired with monstrous fangs only revealed in bursts. The result was a predator who could charm his prey before destroying them. Sarandon even researched bat physiology to understand how to move like a predator in daylight. His insistence transformed Dandridge into one of the most memorable vampires of the 80s, a mixture of sophistication and savagery that terrified and hypnotized audiences alike. Practical effects nearly destroyed the set. Fright Night's effects team pushed practical horror to its limits. Director Tom Holland demanded that everything look tactile and alive. The transformation scene where Evil Ed turns back into a human after death took days to shoot and involved layers of gelatin, latex, and animal organs for realism. The smell was unbearable under hot lights. Crew members vomited, some fainted. The puppetry and animatronics malfunctioned mid-shoot, sending parts of the prosthetic creature flying across the stage. Effects designer Richard Edlund later joked that the scene cost more in cleanup than makeup, but Holland refused to cut it. He believed horror should be physically revolting, not polished. The agony paid off. That sequence became a hallmark of 80s practical effects insanity. Amanda Bearse was terrified of her own makeup. Amanda Bearse, who played Amy, didn't expect her transformation into a demonic vampire to be so traumatizing. When she saw her reflection during a makeup test, she burst into tears. The process took nearly 8 hours each day and involved massive prosthetic jaws that distorted her speech. The crew called it the shark look because her new mouth could barely close. Bearse later admitted she had nightmares about it for months. Her eyes were also fitted with oversized red contact lenses that cut off oxygen, causing severe irritation, but she refused to quit. Her emotional breakdown made the final transformation scene horrifyingly authentic. The image of Amy's monstrous smile burned into pop culture as one of the most disturbing moments in vampire cinema. Roddy McDowall improvised half his lines. Roddy McDowall brought decades of experience to the role of Peter Vincent. But instead of following the script word for word, he improvised much of his dialogue. McDowall wanted Vincent to be a washed-up relic from another era, a coward hiding behind stage theatrics. He channeled forgotten horror hosts of the 50s and 60s, mimicking their exaggerated gestures and pompous tone. Holland encouraged it. Many of Vincent's funniest and most heartfelt lines came straight from McDowall's imagination. During one take, he broke into tears while recalling his failed career, something not in the script but too powerful to cut. That moment redefined the character from comic relief to tragic hero. The improvisation gave Fright Night a surprising emotional backbone rarely seen in 80s horror. The original ending was completely different. The ending we know wasn't the one filmed first. In the original cut, Charlie and Amy watch late-night TV only to see Peter Vincent hosting again, but with Jerry Dandridge's reflection smiling in the background. The tone was darker, more ambiguous, leaving audiences unsure if the vampire had really died. Test screenings terrified executives who demanded a safer ending. The reshoot added warmth and humor, but Holland hated the change. He felt the original ending carried poetic justice that echoed classic universal horror irony. For years, fans only heard rumors of the lost footage until stills surfaced showing the alternate conclusion's eerie setup. It's one of those what could have been moments that haunts horror history and makes Fright Night's mythology even richer. The sound design was built from animal screams. Fright Night's haunting soundscape didn't come from synthesizers. Sound designer Richard Edlund layered distorted animal recordings over human voices to craft the movie's shrieks and roars. The infamous bat attack sequence used slowed-down jaguar growls mixed with screeching pigs. Holland wanted the audience to feel something primal, something that crawled under the skin. The sound team even recorded a stuntman's breathing through a broken snorkel to simulate Jerry's inhuman gasps. Every noise was organic and handmade long before digital effects could replicate them. When combined with Brad Fiedel's eerie score, the result was a living nightmare. Viewers didn't just watch horror, they heard it breathe. The mix gave Fright Night an oral brutality that helped it stand apart from other polished 80s fright flicks. Evil Ed's death traumatized audiences. Stephen Jeffries' death scene as Evil Ed was so disturbing that theaters reported walkouts. The transformation sequence where Ed reverts from a wolf back to human form was filmed in agonizing detail. Holland wanted the audience to feel pity, not fear. He instructed Jeffries to play it like a child realizing his own death. The animatronic team spent weeks engineering the prosthetics, so each muscle appeared to collapse naturally. The sequence was so convincing that the MPAA nearly slapped it with an X rating. They argued that it was too emotional, too graphic for mainstream audiences. Holland refused to cut it, calling it the film's tragic soul. To this day, it remains one of the most heartbreaking deaths in vampire cinema. A real fire broke out during filming. During the climactic battle at Jerry's house, the crew used massive lighting rigs and smoke machines to simulate hellish atmosphere. But one faulty cable started a real fire that spread across the set within minutes. Cast and crew scrambled for safety as the flames consumed part of the staircase. Sarandon and McDowell were still in costume when firefighters arrived. Production shut down for 2 days while they rebuilt the damaged sections. Ironically, the charred look of the rebuilt set enhanced the film's apocalyptic tone. Holland later joked that even the house didn't want to die quietly. No one was seriously injured, but the near disaster added to Fright Night's reputation as a cursed yet unstoppable production that thrived on chaos. Chris Sarandon and Stephen Jeffries fought off camera. Tension between Chris Sarandon and Stephen Jeffries became notorious on set. Sarandon took a method approach, staying in character between takes, while Jeffries mocked his seriousness. During one rehearsal, Jeffries improvised a sarcastic line that ruined Sarandon's take. Sarandon stormed off the set furious. Holland forced both actors to cool off separately. Later that night, they reconciled over beers and turned their friction into creative fuel. Their hostility became part of the on-screen chemistry. Predator and victim locked in mutual disgust. The realism in their scenes wasn't acting. Jeffries admitted years later that he enjoyed provoking Sarandon because it made the vampire's rage feel real. That hidden conflict helped forge some of the most electric tension in the entire film. The MPAA fought to censor the film Fright Night, came dangerously close to being rated X. The MPAA objected to its realistic gore and erotic undertones, especially the bedroom scene between Jerry and Amy. Holland argued that the sensuality was essential because it symbolized the lure of evil. The board didn't care. They demanded multiple cuts to tone down the blood flow and the length of Amy's transformation. The studio feared losing a teenage audience, so they complied reluctantly. Holland re-edited the film overnight and resubmitted it 6 times before earning an R rating. He called the process pure torture. What audiences didn't know was that the uncensored footage still exists in storage unscanned, unseen for decades. Go ahead and like and subscribe, because this story proves how close art came to vanishing under fear of morality police. The set was filled with supernatural paranoia. By week 5, strange coincidences began to unnerve the cast. Equipment failed constantly, lights burst mid-scene, and sound tapes warped. One day, Holland discovered every prop cross had vanished overnight. The crew joked that the movie had invited real evil onto the set. Sarandon, who studied vampire mythology, refused to shoot night scenes on Fridays, claiming it was bad luck in Romanian folklore. Even McDowell, a skeptic, refused to enter the set alone. A priest was quietly brought in by a makeup artist who sprinkled holy water near the coffin prop. After that, accidents stopped. No one could explain it. Whether coincidence or curse, it added a chilling layer of authenticity to the film's dark energy and relentless atmosphere of dread. Amy's dance scene took 3 days to film. That hypnotic dance between Jerry and Amy in the nightclub wasn't spontaneous. It was a nightmare of logistics. The crew shot it over 3 nights with real clubgoers paid to act terrified. The strobe lighting caused dizziness for both Bears and Sarandon. Holland wanted the sequence to feel dreamlike, erotic, and terrifying all at once. Sarandon choreographed the movements himself, combining predator grace with romantic tension. Bears later said she barely remembered filming it due to exhaustion and blinding light. The heat from the packed extras was so intense that smoke from the fog machines lingered for hours. Yet the result was unforgettable. The scene became one of the most iconic in vampire cinema history, blending seduction and danger into visual poetry. The vampire makeup caused injuries. The film's legendary vampire prosthetics were not only painful but dangerous. The contact lenses were made of rigid glass painted by hand and offered almost no airflow. Sarandon could wear his only 10 minutes before tearing up. Stephen Jeffries' latex wolf mask weighed nearly 20 pounds and trapped sweat underneath. One stunt performer suffered chemical burns when a batch of fake blood mixed with adhesive. The effects team constantly adjusted formulas to prevent infections. Holland pushed the limits of endurance because he believed that real pain produced real fear on screen. After filming, Wrapped the cast joked that they survived their own horror movie. The behind-the-scenes agony became part of the film's legend, proof that practical effects demanded real human sacrifice. The studio had no faith in the film. Columbia Pictures considered Fright Night a filler project sandwiched between bigger releases. Executives assumed it would flop and gave it minimal marketing. They even refused to fund a major premiere. Holland took matters into his own hands, organizing local screenings and inviting horror journalists. Word of mouth exploded. Test audiences went wild. Suddenly, Columbia scrambled to rebrand it as their surprise hit of the summer. The underdog film grossed over $24 million against a modest budget, shocking everyone. What was meant to be a small vampire flick turned into the highest-grossing horror film of 1985. The studio's neglect accidentally created a legend and taught Hollywood that passion often outperforms marketing muscle. The transformation effects broke every rule in the book. When Tom Holland demanded realism in vampire transformations, his effects crew panicked. Traditional prosthetics couldn't achieve the fluid morphing he wanted, so they invented new techniques combining hydraulic bladders with gelatin layers that could pulse and stretch. The transformation of Jerry Dandridge into a bat demon took 40 hours to film and used 4 different mechanical heads, each built for one movement. The result was so graphic that Columbia's executives asked if it was too intense for theaters. Holland refused to tone it down. He argued that horror loses power when sanitized. What audiences didn't realize was that each horrifying transformation they witnessed represented sleepless nights, dangerous heat, and melted latex everywhere. Those moments redefined practical monster effects for the rest of the decade. The sequel was cursed from the start. After Fright Night's unexpected success, Columbia rushed to make a sequel. But by then, the studio had merged with a company linked to a notorious crime figure. The project stalled under legal confusion and distribution deals collapsed. Tom Holland and Chris Sarandon declined to return, fearing the chaos. Fright Night Part 2 finally emerged in 1988 under a new team, but without the same magic. It opened quietly and vanished after only a few weeks. Many fans never saw it until home video years later. The tragedy is that Holland's original sequel script, which explored Jerry's resurrection through Amy's blood, was scrapped. That lost version might have expanded the mythos into something darker, richer, and unforgettable. Fright Night saved the vampire genre, Before 1985, vampire films were nearly extinct. The genre had turned campy and predictable. Fright Night revived it with heart, wit, and terror. Holland merged nostalgia with contemporary teenage fear, creating something new. The film's success opened the door for later classics like The Lost Boys and Near Dark. Critics called it a modern morality tale disguised as a creature feature. Sarandon's sophisticated villain reminded audiences that monsters could be intelligent, seductive, and tragic. Every studio suddenly wanted its own vampire property again. Fright Night didn't just bring back the undead, it resurrected an entire subgenre from its coffin. Its bloodline still flows through today's horror hits, proving that charisma and fear are eternal companions. One lost scene was too disturbing to release. Hidden deep in Columbia's archives lies an unreleased scene known among fans as the Mirror Room sequence. It reportedly showed Charlie trapped inside Jerry's house surrounded by hundreds of mirrors, all reflecting different, monstrous forms of the vampire. The sequence was shot but never developed because test viewers found it psychologically disturbing, rather than thrilling. The lab mislabeled the film reels, and they were forgotten. Only a few storyboards remain showing grotesque imagery of faces merging and bodies twisting in impossible ways. Holland later said it was the most frightening thing he ever filmed, but too powerful for mainstream release. The mystery of that lost footage continues to fuel fan obsession decades later, adding a ghostly aura to the film's legacy. Every frame hides symbolism of fear and desire. Fright Night isn't just a story about vampires, it's a story about adolescence, transformation, and forbidden desire. Charlie's obsession mirrors youthful paranoia. Amy's seduction represents the terrifying pull of adulthood. Jerry's charm reflects temptation itself. Holland layered these ideas, deliberately crafting a morality tale under the guise of a horror romp. Even the lighting shifts, warm human tones turn to icy blue whenever evil enters. Each detail reinforces the tension between innocence and corruption. The film endures not because of its monsters, but because it speaks to every teenager's nightmare of growing up too fast. Beneath the blood and fangs lies a mirror showing us our own hunger for danger and belonging. Bonus fact: the film's original poster hid a secret message. The haunting cloud face looming over the house wasn't random artwork. Illustrator Peter Miller embedded a subtle signature in the swirling mist, forming the outline of a screaming skull within the vampire's mouth. Few noticed it until years later when fans enhanced the image. Holland confirmed it was intentional, a hidden homage to classic monster posters of the 30s. He called it his love letter to horror history disguised as nightmare art. That poster became one of the most recognizable images in horror, marketing inspiring countless imitations across the decade. It proved that Fright Night wasn't just made with blood, sweat, and latex, it was built on reverence for the art of fear itself. Fright Night wasn't just a vampire movie, it was a battle cry for practical effects, creativity, and genuine terror in an era of fading monsters. It redefined what horror could feel like: playful, yet personal, grotesque, yet strangely beautiful. Even 40 years later, its bite still draws blood. If you enjoyed exploring the dark secrets behind Fright Night, sink your teeth into more by liking this video, subscribing for the next classic breakdown, and remembering evil never dies. It just waits for nightfall.